Everett Snipes, half white, half Kansa, woke when the sun came from behind a cloud and covered his face with light. Everything ached, especially his head. What the hell was I drinking last night? He opened his eyes and squinted in the bright burn of morning light. His blue roan Mustang, Po' Boy, grazed a few yards away. Even my eyeballs hurt. He saw his bedroll still tied behind the saddle and sat up to take a look around. Why am I sleeping on the ground? Did I fall off Po' Boy? How drunk was I? The details of the night before came back to him. He'd been to visit with a cousin on the white side of his family who lived several miles to the west. Herbert had a jar of clear liquid he'd offered to share. Why not? 25 years old and living on his own since he was 13, Everett thought he was rich. He'd worked a whole week in the livery stable at Camp Center, the military station. His pay was in his vest pocket, $6 silver. Without taking them out, he fingered the coins and counted them to make sure they were all still there. He remembered that he'd gone to see Herbert to try to convince him to accompany him to California. He'd told him, "We could hitch up with one of them wagon trains coming through here on the Oregon Trail." Gold had been discovered at some place named Coloma, and Everett wanted to get in on the millions to be made. It was said that nuggets the size of a man's fist were simply lying in the streams, waiting for Everett and Herbert to come gather them. A sound like a puppy calling to be fed came to Everett. He twisted his head and saw a Kansa woman lying several yards to his right. She didn't move. Is she dead? Long and lanky, with traces of his Kansa mother showing in his facial bone structure, he staggered to his feet, reeled back a few steps, and then caught his balance. Half afraid, he sidled to where she lay. When he saw her face, Everett recognized her as the wife of one of the scouts. That's Machante, Wakiza's half-Sioux wife. My heart, Wakiza calls her. What the hell is she doing here? The ground around the woman's hips and legs was soaked with blood. He squatted next to her and picked up her hand. When he dropped it, the hand fell flat to the ground. She's dead, sure enough. A movement under her buckskin dress drew his gaze, and a mewing sound returned, stronger this time. Everett lifted the skirt of Machante's garment to find a baby girl, still covered in wet birthing matter. She flailed her arms and legs. As the sunlight struck her face, she let out a loud wail. Everett's head jerked back in surprise. He lost his balance and fell back. He said aloud, "I wonder how long you've been laying there." Everett drew his knife from his belt and cut one of the strings from the fringe on Machante's dress. He tied it around the umbilical cord a few inches from the baby's abdomen, and then sliced through the cord. The baby's crying grew louder and echoed inside Everett's head. He gazed down at the tiny bundle of screaming life and shook his head. "Well, little girl, what am I going to do with you?"